All right, guys. In this video, we're going to be talking about Pythagorean Theorem. It is our first lesson within the trigonometry unit that we are currently in. We could take a look at Pythagorean Theorem in this diagram right here. So everything that you have right here is going to be what we cover in our right triangle trigonometry. Our first thing that we're going to be focusing on is Pythagorean Theorem. It really focuses on stuff that doesn't deal with angles. Everything else on the right-hand side deals with angles. Pythagorean Theorem is a property that doesn't include or need any angles to for us to apply it. So it really is utilized when we're just focusing on the side lengths of a right triangle. So you can see right here, we have a right triangle. How do I know I have a right triangle? It has this little square right here. That square is indicating 90 degrees. So we have a right angle right there. So we have a right triangle. We can see that their property follows this form. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. What is A, B, and C? Well, A and B are just variables that we put in for the legs. What are the legs? The legs are the sides that create the 90-degree angle. The C is that last third longest side, which we call the hypotenuse. I abbreviate it as HYP, hypotenuse. We can find the hypotenuse pretty easily. Identify the 90-degree angle, or the right angle, and the side that's opposite to it, or not touching it, is the hypotenuse. So we can read this equation as when we square the two legs of the right triangle and add them together, it is equal in value to the hypotenuse, the longest side, squared. That's what we get when we say A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So what can we do with the Pythagorean theorem? That's easy. A lot of problems, what they do is they give you two sides of a right triangle and they ask you to find that third one. Well, the property of the sides must follow this formula, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So we can utilize that to solve the missing unknown side length. The process kind of follows this. Label your hypotenuse. Easiest one to identify, the longest side, label it as C. Then the second one is to label our legs, A and B. Once we've done that, we construct our Pythagorean theorem, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Then replace the values and solve for that missing side. So the last one is literally to solve for it. We can utilize numeric solver to help us with this. Okay, you could do it by hand, but for our convenience, we're just going to use numeric solver. Let's take a look at the first example. Actually, before we do, I do want to emphasize why I have two examples for us in this video. The first one is to focus on the hypotenuse. So we're going to be looking for the hypotenuse in that first one. The second one, we're going to be looking for the leg. So really, you can think of the Pythagorean theorem problems in two categories. Am I looking for the hypotenuse or am I looking for a leg? Once you kind of figure that out, these problems become just two things that you have to really focus on. The hypotenuse or the leg. Let's take a look at the first one, which is dealing with the hypotenuse. So we have a right triangle. First step is to write our hypotenuse, our C. I look for the 90 degrees so I can find the right angle. The side opposite to that will be the hypotenuse. It is already labeled C. That's convenient, but this is my hypotenuse. It should be the longest side. That means the other two sides, this one and this one, are my legs. I'm going to call this one, I'm going to call 6 my A and 3 as my B. It doesn't actually matter. I can swap them if I would like, but I'm just going to name it this way. So I've labeled my hypotenuse and my legs A and B. Now I'm just going to construct my trig ratio. Or sorry, not trig ratio, Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Again, this is a property of right triangles, so I can utilize it. Let's see. I know what A is. That's 6. So I got to square the 6. And B is the 3. So I have to square the 3. Leaving me just with C squared. That is what I'm looking for. So it's an unknown variable. But I can, again, use the property of Pythagorean theorem to find it. Okay, I have an equation with a missing variable right here at C. I can utilize numeric solver to help me. So at this point, I can utilize numeric solver. So I can grab my calculator, make sure I can see it. There we go. Hit math, go up to a numeric solver, and boom. E1 is just going to be the left-hand side. So really, I'm just going to put this in for E1. And I'm going to put the other side, the right-hand side, as E2. And what I should get is what C is equal to. Okay, so I'm going to put 6 squared plus 3 squared. There we go. And then on E2, I'm going to put X. I could put C, but for convenience-wise, I'm just going to put X squared. Drop down. I'm going to put a 1 in there. Just because we're looking for side lengths, it has to be positive, so I'll put 1 in there. Press alpha, enter to solve for it. And there we go. I have now 6.708. It goes on for a while. What do I need to round to? Well, let's take a look. If necessary, round to the nearest tenth. That's the first decimal place. So I'm looking at the first decimal place. It's right here. Look to the number to the right. It's a 0. So I'm going to round that 7 to just itself, 6.7. And the units are centimeters, so I'm going to have 6.7 centimeters. And again, that's my hypotenuse. So the length of this right here is 6.7 centimeters. And that makes sense. It should be the longest side. It is greater than 3 and 6, so good. I'm pretty confident with my answer. So I would put that in IXL and go to the next problem. So that, again, that was looking at finding the hypotenuse. Let's take a look at an example where we're looking for the leg. Okay. So again, let's label our triangle. It sounds redundant, but it's the one mistake that I see a lot of people do, incorrectly labeling their triangle. So focus on labeling it correctly. Look for the 90 degrees or the right angle. Find the side that's opposite to it. Boom. This right here is my hypotenuse. So I'm going to call this one C. Leaving me labeling my legs A and B. I already have one side labeled A. Great. Leaving me the other side just B. So this one is B. I have A, B, and C labeled. So now I can construct my Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. I'm looking for A, but I know what C and B are. B is 68, so I got to square it. B is 85. I have to square it. And I'm looking for A, so I'm going to just bring A squared down. Now, at this point, I can make this my E1 and this my E2. So using numeric solver. You could do it by hand if you would like. And if it's quicker for you to do that, do so. So there we go. We are in numeric solver. You just press up. I'm going to clear this and put in X squared because I'm looking for A plus 68 squared. Boom, I have the left-hand side. Now the right-hand side. Hypotenuse is 85. I got that squared. And there we go. I'm going to click 1, and I'm going to press alpha, enter. There we go. And this comes out nicely for us. We find that A is equal to 51. No rounding needed. Again, only if necessary. So A is 51, and that makes sense. It looks to be the smallest side, so it should be less than 85 and 68, and we're good. All right, guys, remember, in these examples, you are looking for either the hypotenuse or the leg. If you're looking for a hypotenuse, use that example. If you're looking for the leg, use that example. Otherwise, guys, if you have any questions, please reach out and have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next